This podcast may contain discussions of graphic violence, unsettling themes, supernatural phenomena, and other topics that some listeners may find disturbing or triggering. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed are simply those of the individual hosts and do not represent the profession of psychology or constitute professional advice. Welcome back to the Secret Passage podcast. I am your host, Dana Vespoli.
And I am Shannon.
And this is our season finale episode. Before we go on a little break, but our Patreon will be up and running with content and trapdoor episodes for anyone who is interested. And then we'll be back in June. So with that, Shannon,
Yeah.
I would like to know, did you happen to travel down any interesting secret passages last week?
Well, I was thinking about this episode that we're doing on parasocial relationships. And so this is like a retro secret passage.
Awesome.
So I was thinking about my most parasocial relationship in my life, and that would be with Nick Rhodes from Duran Duran.
You liked Nick Rhodes.
I did. Well, I liked John Taylor, but I was like, everybody likes John Taylor.
Right.
And I liked Nick Rhodes because he wore a lot of makeup, and when he married his wife, they wore the same lipstick color, and I just thought he was cool.
Yeah.
And also he is handsome.
Yeah, he is.
But now you look back and you're like, Roger Taylor and Andy Taylor were also really hot, and they were the ones that like no one had a crush on. So I loved him, and I named he was my Cabbage Patch Kids baby daddy. I loved him.
Oh my goodness. You had a Cabbage Patch.
I had a Cabbage Patch Kid named Sebastian Anton, and I changed his name.
What a name.
I know. I changed his name to be named after his father. I don't know if he was like the second or junior, but I named him Nicholas James Bates Rhodes because that's Nick Rhodes' real last name is Bates.
That's a infinitely cooler last name, I think.
I know. I think he named himself after Rhodes, like the keyboard manufacturer.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That's what I read. So I would read everything, like Teen Beat, Tiger Beat, all those like magazines, and I had pictures of them all over my walls, like 8x10 glossies. I was literally in love with him. And so I'm just thinking about like the power of those relationships, and I don't think I have felt that way since about, sort of a star. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that, is that I was definitely very obsessed with Duran Duran, and specifically Nick Rhodes.
I was such a weirdo when I was like fucking 12 years old because I had some friends that were like heavy duty into Duran Duran, and I recognized Duran Duran as being cool. For some fucking reason, my crush was on Paul McCartney.
I could totally see that.
Not Paul McCartney circa the Beatles, but Paul McCartney and Wings. I had a fucking crush on Paul McCartney. I'm such a dork. No wonder no one liked me, because I remember like Frankie Goes to Hollywood was really popular around that time, and Culture Club and Duran Duran and all that. And I liked Madonna. I thought Madonna was really cool, and Bananarama. But my crush was on fucking Paul McCartney, and I would like have dreams about, living in the English countryside with him. I was a dork. No wonder I didn't have friends for the longest time, because they were like, who do you like? I'm like, Paul McCartney.
Well, I have one for you. This is my weirdest crush, and I don't remember where I saw him. I guess I must have seen him in a movie or something, but I was so into Danny Kaye. Remember?
Oh, yes, of course I remember Danny Kaye. I remember him in White Christmas.
Yeah, I was like, I thought he was so good looking. I was very, very young though. I
Yeah,
think I was like 7.
sure.
Um, oh, that's funny. Paul McCartney is good looking.
He was cute. I mean, as far as like, as far as the Beatles go, my favorite was George Harrison. Still is. George Harrison's my favorite Beatle.
Yeah, mine too.
But yeah, I remember. But here's the funny thing with our parasocial relationships or our crushes, for example, there or like my fandom with Madonna. Of course, I had crucifix earrings and would try to style my hair like hers. Like later on, there was distance. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We had no access to them except what was printed in Rolling Stone or like Teen Beat, Tiger Beat, or what we'd see on MTV or anything like that. There was no
Mm-hmm.
access or imaginary access to them or fan
Mm-hmm.
clubs, right?
Yeah, there was distance.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. I'll quickly give you my secret passage. My secret passage was twofold
Okay.
and bittersweet. And you know, Shannon, because you were listening to me go on and on and on about it. My oldest child went to prom last Saturday, and he just got his first car yesterday and drove himself to school. And I am in my feelings about it, at once proud and at the same time, you know, hyper anxious.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
a weird time, man. It's really interesting. I have to like hold myself back so I'm not that, you know, that freak. Are you
Uh,
okay?
oh
Let me
my
know when you
God.
reach there. When are you going to be home? You know, like that.
Ugh.
Trying not to be that.
Well, it makes so much sense. I mean, this is like precious cargo here, and you're having to let go, let go.
Oh, I know. Oh, but he's
Ah,
so happy and that's he's the one that was warning me about weird parasocial relationships. He finds them very disturbing. And when I told him I was defending Sabrina Carpenter from one of my friends that was like, "Ah, she rubs me the wrong way." And I'm like, "Nonsense. She's nice." And Adam's like, "Mom,
you
you
don't
don't
know.
know that. You don't
Yeah.
know her. I just you know you don't know her, right?" I'm like, "Dude, I know. I'm joking." He goes, "Okay,
Yeah.
because there's some people out there and they get real fucking crazy, like the Swifties and stuff. The Swifties that like go all in for Taylor Swift or
Oh,
the
I
yeah.
have 2 Swifty friends.
Are they crazy though?
No, but they
Okay,
paid a
good.
bunch of money to go up to her shows, and the parking was like $500 or
You
something.
have got to be 500 for I mean, I shouldn't be surprised when I hear what some of the ticket prices were.
Adam is he's such a good kid. He's so mature. When I look at him and I hear the things he says, I'm like, Jesus, it took me a long time to grow up. I was like so unformed at his age, and he's such a good, mature, smart kid.
Yeah, it's funny. I texted him earlier, and I was like, "Man, I'm just trying to keep you from, you know, veering off the same kind of, avoiding my pitfalls,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Trying
yeah.
to help him with that." And I think about my pitfalls, like that story I told you about, like going to a fucking dance club in San Francisco and being like, "Ah, we'll figure out how we're gonna get home. Let's go have fun. We'll work out those annoying little details later." And then we ended up, you know, walking through the Tenderloin trying to find a bus station. So like,
Oh my God. No, I seriously, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like it's crazy that I survived my life. And sometimes I do think like I'm like, am I dead? And I'm just in like a dream. Because honestly, I'm like, how did I live? All kinds of dangerous, silly situations. Although I never hitchhiked. When I hear these
no.
stories, I've been listening to these like podcasts lately. I listened to this really horrific one. What was about that woman, you know, the one that got picked up by not Gary Ridgway, but Gary something. And then he like raped her and cut her arms off and threw her into this embankment and she survived. And I'm like, how did anyone ever think that hitchhiking was a good idea?
Right.
Anyway, I don't want to distract us. Shall we move on?
Yes, real quick before we get into our episode discussion, Shannon, you said that you have a correction.
Yes, I have to make a correction because last episode I was talking about anxiety and how those of us with anxiety are more likely to survive in situations. And I said Tim would be the first to die in a zombie attack. And he said, I need to come on here and correct that. I was born and raised in Venice. I've worked in downtown Berkeley for 25 years. I know how to survive zombies. So, correction. He would live, potentially.
Right. But he'd be really casual about it.
Exactly. No, he gets people for some reason. Someone has tried to attack him 2 times.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like like picked him out of a crowd and then just come after him. And he survived, so there you have it.
Was the person like, hey, that guy looks too relaxed. He's an easy mark.
Seriously.
How dare you? You look completely unaffected. I must take you down.
True, it's true. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, so this episode, our season finale episode, I just like saying that, it sounds cool.
Yes.
We are going to talk about social media, influencers, parasocial relationships, and our relationship to reality, or our perception of reality in the context of social media, if that makes any sense. I was just making that up as I was going along. But you and I have been talking at length about, and I think we even made mention of it in one of our kind of beginning conversations last season, about the Reddit snark community.
Mm-hmm.
And these communities that, you know, by and large, they tend to be social media influencers like Sydney Adams, Michaela Marie, Emily Kaiser,
Eugenia Cooney.
And then, of course, I found out about them because I did a search on Jenna Jameson, because I wondered what had ever happened to her. And I came across this subreddit community that exists to criticize her, tear her down, make fun of her, point out her flaws, all of that. And I just couldn't believe how big the community was and how it really did function like a community.
Yeah.
Like, these people have become friends in their shared disdain for this woman who's doesn't seem to be doing well at all. I mean, she's controversial more than even just because of her, you know, being probably the biggest porn star, you know, that the industry has seen. Mm-hmm. But her very public custody battles with Tito Ortiz and stuff, and which he has full custody of the children, and then her ex-partner has custody of her youngest child, and she has no relationship with them, and she seems to be really struggling with stuff, you know, with addiction and home and like virtual homelessness. She's broken. And I'm like, I don't know how much more you can beat this person up online. She's already broken, you know? And I was like, what do they want? And I was like really trying to understand what they want. And sometimes they get defensive, because there are some folks that go into the Reddit thread and say, hey, you guys don't have anything better to do, blah, blah. And they're like, they become very self-righteous. Like, well, she abandoned her children. She's an alcoholic. She needs to get help. We just want to see her admit to these failings. And I'm like, why does she owe you anything, stranger on the internet? Why does she owe you anything? I'm not defending some of the things that she, you know, allegedly has done. But I'm like, why does she need to, I don't know, apologize publicly to you? What did she do to you? And this seems to be a common thread in social media. And because Jenna, now, if you want to find her, she's of course on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. So again, there's that, we talked about the collapsing of distance. Mm-hmm. Now we feel, you know, she will go on a live and talk directly to you. So a lot of these creators will go on these lives, TikTok lives, Instagram lives, and speak directly to you, so that you have immediate access it seems to them.
Yeah, and it seems like you're being invited into a really intimate relationship, and it's an illusion because it's totally one-sided, but
And it's heavily curated.
yeah, and it's also maybe not one-sided in the sense that like the person who's doing it, the influencer, is having a relationship with you by attempting to sort of rope you into their world and their life and give you something so that they can have your attention and they can make money. And so there is a relationship, but it's definitely not like a real in-person mutual relationship. But yeah, I think there's like with Nick Rhodes, right? Like that was not the nature of that relationship. They were making music and performing, and we like them and we become their fans. But this is so, because it's like, I guess the thing they're selling is their lives. It just creates this fosters this sense of, I don't know, like that you're closer than you are and you're entitled.
Right. And it's manufactured intimacy. And even the language that a lot of these influencers use, they'll sign off and say, I love you.
Yeah. Oh, we've
I
done
love you
that too.
guys. Love you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's recently there was a horrible tragedy that took place in Arizona on Mother's Day with a very popular TikTok influencer, a momfluencer, if you will. She has been very successful on TikTok and I believe Instagram too, but I found her on TikTok doing, get ready with me vlogs, morning vlogs. She was documenting her second pregnancy, and posted, from the hospital after she gave birth to her second child, and very popular, like 3 million plus followers, I want to say. But you would travel along with her in her car. She's driving to go work out, go to the store. She'd show you what she was buying at the store, what products she was using, what kinds of meals she was prepping, her house, her home remodel, all of these things, things that you would share with a friend, right? But her 3-year-old drowned on Mother's Day in the family's pool. And
Oh my God,
it
it was Mother's Day?
it was on Mother's
I
Day.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So the reaction was, first of all, I saw a post, and I'm a total TikTok lurker. I love TikTok and all that. And sometimes I'll be on my For You page and things will pop up that, of course, are related to the content I already consume. That's why it's called a For You page. But I saw someone talking about how they had seen on the news in Arizona that a toddler had drowned in the pool, and the reactions were swift and just one after the other, tumbling. More and more and more and more stuff was popping up. It's Emily Kaiser's house. I can tell because of the layout. I can tell like that they didn't announce whose child it was, who the child was, anything. They just mentioned kind of the area where the accident occurred.
Oh, and they started putting the pieces
They
together?
started to put the pieces together from the Zillow listing,
Whoa.
all this kind of stuff. So you had that. You had people going, it's oh my goodness, it's her son, it's her son, it's her son, it's her son. OMG, OMG, like what's going on? Oh, we've got to find out. Okay, is Emily gonna post a statement? Is this gonna happen? Is that gonna happen? And just it was intense. None of these people know her personally. And I can understand because here, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was panicked,
Yeah,
right? I
because
don't
you're
know her.
invested in her life, right? Like
I watch her get ready with me videos. I was like, oh look, good. Her her delivery went well. I don't believe that I'm friends with her. I know that what she's sharing online is carefully curated. I know that a lot of as somebody who's made a career, a successful career out of posting content, she's relying on a certain image, putting forth a certain image to work in terms of her brand deals, in terms of what it is that she needs to do to generate income. I know only what she wants to share. And surely, of course, this isn't anything. This is anybody's worst fucking nightmare, is not going to share this and is not entitled, But I found myself invested in finding out. I was like, oh my goodness. But there were some people calling hospitals to find
Wow.
out if this was, it was insane.
It's so interesting because, you know, seeing someone's life like that can evoke all kinds of feelings, right? Like
Sure.
we're alike, we share the same interests, and then pain. I say this all the time to when I'm at work with clients. Our pain connects us to other
Yes.
humans, right? And our shared pain kind of brings us together, and it does act like a social glue. Think about people in like boot camp or in war or in
Sure.
right, and I can see that, but it's also like, whoa, like that level of concern sort of punctures it crosses a boundary,
Big time.
right?
Yes. It reminds me of that scene in Midsommar. I think you probably know what I'm talking about, when Florence Pugh is like shrieking, and then the girl's in front of her and mimicking her face shrieking.
Yes.
It's like this weird, it's not empathy. It's like trying to mimic it.
Yeah, like a ghastly, it's sort of like, tell me if this is close to it. It's
Yeah.
something like empathy, but also like sadistic, not sadistic glee, but like excitement.
An
Like,
arousal.
yeah, like let's get in on the action. Like I need to know now.
Yes.
And that's not empathy. Is like, I mean, could be empathy in that, but like, what is the function of that for that person? Is it that they just can't? They want to be the first to know. They want to be able to the first to report back to the fan group. Do they want to? It's like a morbid curiosity.
It's a more that there's definitely a morbid component. I think when you're calling hospitals, feeling entitled to information for someone you don't know, and she's a character to them also. So there's also this thing where there is this investment in her story, but she's content to be consumed. Her tragedy is content to be consumed, and I think that's where they lose sight of, this isn't a story. This is a human being that you don't know, going through the worst thing that anyone could go through.
Oh God.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, I have to admit, I wanted to know, but I didn't want it to know like that. It's that thing of like, please don't let this be her kid. But also I'm like, but also a kid just fucking drowned. So let it be no one's kid, but it is someone's kid. And of course, what this has brought about, if anything positive can come from social media, it's now a heightened awareness of drowning deaths that happen. Like we're hitting that season where these
Totally.
things happen all the time. So that brought to mind again, it's that thing where I don't wonder why these creators are doing what they do, right? I don't need to. I'm not curious about that. There's a financial angle, right?
Right.
A huge financial angle. It's incredibly lucrative, and for some creators, it's an odd exhibitionistic kind of quasi like narcissism also,
And
you
for
know,
some, it's like values driven. They want to just be able to share their excitement or their creativity with other people.
or to let the entire interwebs know that they are finally pregnant.
I know. Oh gosh, I
That thing I
know.
sent you where it's like, when only you and the baby know. And I'm like, and the entire fucking internet, you just showed us your pee stick, dude.
Oh
Like, come
God.
on. That's someone I don't even know, some creator that I happened upon. I was like, really, dude?
I know. That's a
Yeah.
whole other angle. Like,
That's a different angle, but
yeah,
again, that's less kind of interesting to me right now,
yeah.
than our need for this content and our entitlement to these people's lives, and also why we like to build them up and destroy them. And all this to say, and I'm sure this surprises absolutely no one. There's a lot of people attacking this poor mother who lost her child and making a lot of assumptions about what happened when no one knows what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Making up stories.
Making up stories and then feeling very, very self-righteous about how they would have done things differently, and these types of actions that need to take place to make this right.
Oh,
It's pretty insane. But so we have a fascination with the lives of others, and through that, these parasocial relationships develop.
yeah. I mean, and sometimes parasocial relationships can be useful.
Absolutely.
But I think what's interesting to me is when it gets unbalanced, like because parasocial relationships are a lot easier than having messy, difficult relationships with real people in real life.
Hmm.
And more, I think people are getting their social needs met through these online relationships. And I don't know, it feels like it's breeding this weird sort of narcissism where you don't really have to think about yourself in a relational context with somebody else, where there are consequences for what you say and what you do, and where you have to deal with another person who actually has like needs and thoughts of their own and feelings of their own. Anyway, so when it's balanced, I think like you have real relationships in real life, and you have your online kinds of, relationships with people. That's okay. But I think some people are just doing way too much of the online stuff.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And then there's that incident that I had heard about, another big creator on TikTok, who's a momfluencer, similar and very good friends apparently with Emily Kaiser, but similar type of content as far as daily vlogs, etc. Apparently, she was at a store, and someone came up, like rushed up and like picked up her child. Which is so inappropriate. You don't walk up and pick up other people's kids. You just don't do that, because again, you guys are strangers. You know who this person is, but you don't know her intimately. You don't just pick up someone's kid. But it's that weird presumption,
It's like genuine confusion, I think, sometimes, right? Like, it might be confusing for our brains, like, that technology has like, made it this possible to have these seeming intimate relationships with people who it's not really real, but it feels really real. It's like you can be super invested in someone's life, for just watching like, if Jacob died, I would flip out, my little kid I love,
Oh,
on the internet.
tell us about Jacob.
Oh, he's so cute. Well, it's Jacob's Mammy, I think, is the name of the
Account.
account, and they're Irish, and Jacob was actually just in that new horror movie. What's it called? The one where she gets a phone call. She's at dinner. Drop. It's called Drop.
Dropped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's Donna, Jacob's Mammy, and it's, oh my God, he's just so adorable. He's just a sweet little wise soul, and he's so loving. And, now he's doing acting, which I think is great because he's such a little ham. But, I have an affection for him. I don't
Hmm.
think I'm if I saw him in real life, I wouldn't run up to him and like scoop him up in my arms like that person. But that's just a matter of my own psychology. Like, you have all these people running around with, like Tim was saying yesterday, he's like, I think these people are just primitive, like they're not really adults, like grown up psychologically, and so like these boundaries to them are so fluid, and they don't really have, they really think this relationship translates into real life, but I think that's more of a function of their own psychology, right, up
Right.
against this technology. But yeah, it's creepy.
I am going to admit right now that I probably have an unhealthy fixation on the influencer pugs and Frenchies and cats. If I saw some Frenchie named Apollo and his sister Artemis, they're both Frenchies, like out in the wild. I'm not sure I could keep myself from like running up and like hugging them.
Oh my God, I know.
I love them.
I love Spud the cryptid. Do you follow Spud?
Yes. Yeah, you sent me his link, I think.
It's a girl.
Oh, her.
Isn't that cute? Yeah, and
Oh.
Spud is like, I swear I've already made up songs about Spud and nicknames for Spud. It's creepy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm just imagining myself like talking to one of these like weird fans and being like, "Oh, so you're like Avery Woods is to you what some Frenchie named Apollo is to me. I already have no boundaries when it comes. Like, I saw this English bulldog at Sephora last week, and I was like, oh, I like heard myself. Like, before I could stop myself, I like made some fucking stupid like squeal of excitement,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And seeing Michael Jackson in person circa 1984. Like I'm like, oh.
Oh my God. Yes.
And the mom, like the owner, looked at me, and I'm like, can I pet your dog? And she's like, sure. And I'm like, was that a look of pity? Like, thinking that. She's like, you pathetic fool. Fine, you may pet him. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the worst.
But you would not go try to pick up someone's child.
No, but I'm also not like, I'm just not like that with children. I'm very wary of kids in general. The weird entitlement of someone else's child, which it kind of goes back to our kidfluencer episode, as far as when you put your children online, like the repercussions. And honestly, there are a lot of accounts like Jacob's mother, who
Yeah.
just loves him and just wants everyone to see how great her son is, and how funny and sweet and lovable he is. I understand that. And I think that there are a lot of parents who feel that way about their kids, that just love them so much. And for the family vloggers like Emily Kaiser, like Avery Woods, Sydney Arnold Cusick. I follow Sydney. I adore Sydney and her girls, but I think for them it's they're not monetizing their kids. They're monetizing themselves and their lifestyle, but they're, of course, their children are a part of their life, so we see them. And I think that's where these consumers of their content have those kind of blurred lines. They assume a friendship with these people that they don't know, that don't know them. They know an aspect of their lives, and they think they know the entire aspect, or the entire life. But these people, they have 3 million followers. They don't know. It reminds me of that apple cider vinegar show. You watched that, right?
No.
Well, there's a part in it where the main character thinks that this influencer she's been following knows her, because, the back and forth comments, when you go
Oh.
in the comments, and then they'll respond, and there's like this lack of recognition that this influencer is responding to. Well, first of all, hundreds upon hundreds of comments. She can't even get to all of them. She's trying, right? So she's not going to remember her, but the main character that's talking to the influencer is like, but no, like, remember, I said this or whatever. And they can't know. So as much as I know Sydney's or Lindsay, sorry, it's Lindsay Arnold Cusick. Did I say Sydney Arnold?
I think he said Lindsay.
Lindsay, yeah, because there's also Sydney Adams that is on there. But I know the layout of her house. I know what her
Yeah.
closet looks like. I know what her kids eat for breakfast. She doesn't know me, and I don't know what I'm not seeing. What I'm seeing is edited down to fit into like 5 to 10 minutes. So it's interesting how invested so many of us that consume this content become with these influencers.
Yeah. So this is where I'm thinking about like simulated intimacy and why people do it, right? Like,
Right.
so and what leads to this feeling of intimacy. This is where the part, okay, you know how when we think about narcissism, we think about like the inability to hold another's perspective
Right.
and have empathy and that kind of thing. I think it's weird. It's got this weird, I don't know, emotional masturbatory component. And I know it's not like sinister for everyone, but you get something out of going to these pages. And as a viewer, I think some people who are viewing them, they feel like understood. They feel seen. They feel like like they're part of something. they get like all these sort of like things evoked in them, but from the content. Like, I don't follow a lot of people, so, but there can be like a inspiration, or it can just be like merely entertainment, or it can just be like a dopamine hit. Actual feelings get evoked in you. Like when I would look at Nick Rhodes, I'd be all, "Woo, I love you," you know. And so there's some sort of like you're having some relationship. But the part that's interesting to me is where it gets blurred and you kind of lose contact with the fact that it isn't mutual. And I can see how for some people that could be more confusing than for other people that might not be able to hold on to that.
Sure. Yeah. And there is also with this relationship that you sort of form in your mind, there starts to become these expectations for the
Yes.
influencer, right?
Oh, yes. Like, you better not let me down by letting
You
your
can't
kid
let me
drown.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that you fucked up. Or what I see a lot, because for research I was going into some of these Reddit these subreddits, and for Sydney Adams, who's an influencer, I started following her during COVID. That's when I got on TikTok. It was really just, that was my escapism. That was my way of looking. I would watch these people, and there was comfort in watching their routines. And Sydney was one of those people. And she, she'd do her getting up in the morning, her ritual, and there was just something soothing about her. And she was very peppy, and she was a fitness influencer. And her life has changed. A lot of things have changed. She got a lot of these brand deals and got with a management company and stuff. And so her content effectively has changed, as it does when you reach this point in your influencer career, when you're able to make a career out of it and all that. There's expectations, from these companies that you're working with. You're working now, right? It's not just you doing your life. You're now working for these different companies to generate this money. And a lot of people were very angry about it. Your content has changed. You've gotten too skinny. You're doing
Right.
this wrong, criticizing her the way she looks, criticizing that she keeps doing these hauls, this really awful kind of conspicuous consumption going on. They're criticizing that. They're criticizing all kinds of stuff.
Which reminds me of the same phenomenon that happens in real life, which is like when you change, sometimes certain friends or people in your life can't handle it. And that's more of a reflection of that person than you, but like it does have a real life, parallel. Because I remember in high school, you just made me think of this. I was upset for a while, like a month or two in high school. Something really weird happened. And all these older girls were mad at me. And my friend, I was in the bathroom with my friend at lunch, and she was like, instead of saying, like, "What's going on with you? Are you okay?" She was like, "You're changing." She was like all upset with me because I was acting different. And yeah, I think that's what happens online, right? Like, I expect you to be a certain way, and when you change and grow, it evokes something in me. And rather than just deal with what I'm feeling, I get mad at you and discharge, like, make you wrong for evoking these difficult feelings in me, right?
Right.
I'm not getting what I want from you anymore. It's so selfish and controlling.
It really is. And also, it's that, again, how's the weather up there on your high horse, dude?
Right.
Like, I don't know, man. What would you do if someone came to you and offered you a really great business opportunity? Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to consume the content anymore.
Right.
And then they live in this snark community, and apparently, like, she reads there. And I'm like, imagine her reading these horrible, mean things. And I'm like, this is a person. Like, it's you wouldn't have the balls to say this to her face.
No, and that's where like that whole thing we've talked about is like in real life, there are major deterrents. I think a lot of us are just really afraid of conflict, and we're kind of cowardly when it comes to like negative consequences socially. And we don't say things to people, probably some things we should say because we're afraid of what it will evoke in them and then what will happen to us and our relationship as a result of it. Like, will they get mad at me? Will they turn on me? Will I lose the friendship? But online, you have no consequences, really. I mean, you're just this anonymous person. You can say the most vile, hateful things, and you don't have to look into someone's face and see how much you've hurt them. You don't have to feel worried that they're going to like hit you or yell at you, or, you know, you're safe behind your keyboard to just, you know, say the most. And we all, I mean, these things come to my mind all the time. The things I think when I'm driving and someone cuts me off, I'm just like, the things I say make me laugh. They're so harsh. But if I had to sit and look at that person and say it to their face, I wouldn't.
No.
I might think it, but I would know that that would not be helpful for anyone if I said it. But yeah, it's just like, it's such an invitation for our most kind of sociopathic selves.
Right. And then in that snark community, they're essentially egging each other on in this, it becomes like this weird cathartic collective experience. They just
Yeah.
like this shared arousal at just picking apart this person.
The normalization and also the social reinforcement. You're like, this is what we do together. We're all so good at it. We all hate her so much. It's like connecting, and you're getting you get so much from that interaction, and like the benefits of it, like the things you get, like a sense of the in group, right? I'm in
Right.
the in group, we're together, like, and I just said the funniest like mean thing and everybody laughed, like all of that I think outweighs any sort of internal negative consequence that would show up, like in an internal sense of like, oh God, I'm such a bad person, or that's a really harsh thing to say. Anything that would come up internally would not be punishing enough, I think, to like drown out all that sort of exhilarating, like, I'm part of the group, we're the mean girls, you know, and all that reinforcement you get in those groups.
Right. They do not view themselves as mean girls. They've decided, and again, this is the projection.
That's wild.
That's that wild fucking projection onto this person they don't know.
Oh, we're good, you're bad. I know, it's like that.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating. It's
She
like,
seems like a mean girl.
it's so clear morally. There's like no uncertainty. There's no ambiguity. She sucks. We're righteous. You see it all the time when we're in war times or something. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they're the bad guys. We're the, yeah, that relaxation into like dichotomous, everything's clear.
And then, so I'm like lurking in these groups. I'm like, bro. And they're like, ha ha ha, you can tell she reads here.
Oh,
This is what I see across the board, in these different snark things. Ha ha, we know you're here. Hey, your whatever looks stupid. And I'm like, you guys are some of these people in the snark community are
yeah.
like grandmothers, dude.
That's so weird.
I'm not joking. I was like, what is this?
You like you have no life, I guess, if
It's
you're on here.
really crazy. And then this, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's just so wild to me.
Yeah.
And then like someone will be on there and be like, hey guys, I got a new job. Oh, wow. And then everybody's, collectively telling them congratulations. And I'm like, bro, this really is a community.
It is.
And then when someone comes in going like, guys, this is weird. Like, I can't believe, like, do you guys not have lives? And they're like, hello, you don't have to be here. This is a snark page after all.
Or they
I'm like,
accuse that person of being the person that they're snarking.
yes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, hey, Karen Reed. You know,
Yeah.
you know, like the free Karen Reed people. And
Yeah,
then yeah. Oh, hey, Karen Reed's lawyer. Yeah.
There was one that made me really sad. It was, I feel weird like even saying these people's names, but I mean,
Do it.
they exist and they're public figures. And I'm coming to their defense. So one of the people, Michaela Marie, she used to have this little thing she would do with her, like, when she gets her morning vlog, right? You see her go and she turns on the kitchen light and feeds her dogs and all that. And then when she goes in and she's like brushing her teeth and then like swishing with mouthwash, she would do this little spin where she kind of snap her fingers and like kind of in a dance move, like spin around as she's swishing.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's in her snark page, that everyone was making fun of how she does that, and then she stopped doing it altogether, and it
Aw.
made me sad. I'm like, that's her
Ugh.
thing she does, and she read them making fun of her, and I'm like, and that's not even the worst thing they say, and they know she reads there, and I'm like, why? I don't understand.
It's a perfect example of how shame can just snuff out a behavior.
It was just that thing
Yeah.
of like, God, like, and I know how addictive it is to keep going back and reading people tear you down.
Ugh.
It's crazy, and so anyway, I just whew,
That's
it's
horrible.
yeah.
No, that's the reason I was so afraid to do this podcast. I was like, I mean, I think if you're going to be a public figure, and honestly, I think I support people who do this because if you're doing it for the right reasons, that because it matters to you and you feel like you have something to offer the world, I just think what you have to do is you have to become a total badass and just eat that and eat it for breakfast and just be like, I'm keeping going, guys. Like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And no matter what you say or think about me. And I mean, honestly, that would be like the ultimate freedom in the world to be able to just do what you're doing, believe in yourself, and then let the haters hate and keep on, and keep on staying connected to what's important to you and just keep going. And because it makes me sad, like stuff like that is you find so adorable in someone that's sort of their signature thing, or that could be so easily taken away by some idiot who makes fun of it. So many of us, because of early experiences of shame, have so many parts of us that we hide or make small because we're afraid we'll be shamed again if we do them. And I just think of all the like incredible things that get crushed out of people, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. There's a quote. Oh, who said this quote? And it's what you have to kind of keep in mind, if you become a public figure, like you're saying. And that is, your opinion of me is none of my business.
Oh, I love that. I say that
Yeah.
all the time.
It's
Yes.
it's you know one aspect. You know one aspect, and it's the aspect that I'm letting you see. And if you hate it, I don't fucking care. You're not my friend, bro.
I know, and that's maybe the part. Exactly. You're definitely not my friend, bro.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. I think that's the artificial, weird, creepy thing. Like our minds are hard enough to deal with in life, and because of contingencies in our environments, right? Like punishments and rewards, we generally have to do a dance with each other about feedback and about criticism and about because of what it will cost us normally in a face-to-face world, like at work, at home, wherever we are. But online, none of that exists. So,
It becomes the Wild West.
well, and yeah, and the fact that we have access to those things. Like we don't normally hear all the thoughts. Remember the Twilight Zone episode I mentioned the other day,
Yes.
like where the guy they flip the coin and then it lands in a weird way and then he can hear everyone's thoughts about him and
Hmm.
how what torture that is. And I'm like, that's where we are right now. Is like this world where we can hear all of this shit that we normally wouldn't hear coming at us in reviews for review culture
Yeah.
and online. And I don't know that we're built for that. Like you and I talked about this. Like, I don't really want to read reviews of us.
Yeah. I became pretty hardened to a lot like the bulk of the criticism that I've gotten, being obviously an adult performer whose, butthole is on fucking the internet if you ever search it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, at that point I'm like, you know,
Should I put
I'm
a link?
opening myself up literally and figuratively to all kinds of stuff. But I remember getting comments like, telling me that I'm old, that
Ugh.
my boobs are ugly, that
Ugh.
like all of this stuff, and I just what's funny is like I don't think I have enough vanity to care. Like I remember thinking I remember realizing in that moment, clearly this is someone who does not know me, because if they knew me, that's not hitting me where it hurts, because I don't give a fuck if you think
That's
I'm
so,
old, because I'm like,
yeah.
I am. I am blessed. I have friends that didn't make it to my age. I am old. I earned my place here. I'm old.
You are not vain. You are definitely not
I don't
vain.
give a fuck, man. Yeah, I don't care if you think I'm ugly. I don't care if you think I'm old. I've had people tell me that I should kill myself. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But thanks for the unsolicited advice. Yeah, there's a point at which you can think I'm stupid. I mean, obviously I've been attacked for doing this job and being a parent and all of that. And I know it's corny and we hear it all the time, but it says a lot more about the person talking to the stranger that they don't know
Yes.
than it does about any fucking choices I've made. And so that's the only thing that I would say. There is constructive, actual constructive advice
Yeah.
that I've received, and I'm happy for it. You know, I mean, we learned that in school. I mean, in my writing program. Are you kidding? That is probably the hardest, is being like taken down several pegs by a professor.
Oh God, it's
Like
the
that
worst.
I'll take being criticized for being old, a bad performer, boring. I've been called boring. I'm like, yeah, I know, dude, for real. I live with me. I know how boring I am.
You are
I
not
can,
boring.
well, I can be so. I felt myself being boring before.
Oh, I'm so bored of myself all the time.
Yeah, I felt it. I've like heard myself talking and been like, man, I got to give it up for these people that are like just struggling to hang on right now. Like this is me in like an actual like a group setting with friends and acquaintances. I'm like, oh man, why did I open my mouth? I can see them like dozing off.
Well, no, but
But
this is so interesting what you're pointing to, because what you're pointing to is like the whole thing about behavioral like contingencies, right? Like something that's punishing to one person is not going to be punishing to another. Like you can take those things in stride. If I got those comments, I would be completely anxious and crushed, and because it would hit my history would show up, and my experience of being put down, and I would go straight into a shame hole, and it would be totally out of my control, but I would work my way out of it. I'd be able to like eventually get there. But it's just so interesting how some of us are more vulnerable because of our histories and because of who we are, and to these kinds of things. And but I'm like, I totally admire that about you, that you
you
seem
know
to
why
get
though?
what.
I think because and we touched on this, and we did the like interview thing with me, and it's from an early age. My physical self has been under scrutiny
Oh yeah.
since I was a kid. So I think I developed a pretty thick skin about that, and I think that's why.
Yeah.
Just and again, this isn't saying that I am like made of steel. I'm definitely not. An incredibly sensitive person, but when it comes to my physical body, I'm just like, you can't. It happened so early on. Now I'm 52. Nah, I'm fine. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I think that's why.
Yeah.
That's probably why. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing why we, number one, feel so invested in these strangers' lives, and I know we touched on like why we consume this intimate content, or this seemingly intimate content, why we want like to be front row and center into these people's lives. And you and I, prior to today, have talked about the idea of the theory of mimetic desire, and how that plays into social media and influencer culture. And so, to give a quick kind of definition for those who may not know of what mimetic desire is, it comes from, what's his name, Rene Girard, right? Rene
Yeah.
Girard, and he says that human desire is fundamentally social, and that individuals, more often than not, they desire what they think that other people desire. And so that means that we're influenced by models, and we emulate their desires. And that
Mm-hmm.
often leads to competition and conflict.
Mm-hmm. Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly, keeping up with the Joneses. And then so when you look at these influencers, that their whole model is lifestyle content, right?
Yep.
And then what's frightening is that these lifestyle influencers, their job is essentially to sell their lifestyle or their perceived lifestyle.
Yeah, and from like a functional contextual lens, like this, it's mimetic desire. It's like you have these people on screen, right? And they look so together and they look happy. Sometimes it's the opposite, like Eugenia Cooney, who's like starving herself to death on whatever. But like if you look underneath the hood, it's like we basically observe people's behaviors and in certain contexts, right? And then we start to desire the object because it's valued by someone we admire. So like that person, like you see, oh, this that's why commercials work, right? Like Johnny Depp is selling this perfume.
Right.
And he's high status. So like this perfume equals high status. And then if I like this perfume, then I have high status, I'm in that ring with them. And it's just so interesting how that's how our minds work, through putting together, we're always sort of comparing, bigger than, less than, equal to, higher or lower. Like this is kind of how we make sense of the world, right?
It's frightening.
Yeah, and so it's like I think Gerard kind of implies that it's like this a universal trait of some kind, but I really see I see it more as like it's it's a function of our the way our minds work basically. And that's what the advertisers know. You're right.
No, that's 100%. And how it's bled its way. It used to be a commercial. You'd have your programming interrupted for a word from their sponsors. And so you understood there was a time and a place, right, for advertising, trying to sell us stuff. And then we started to find its way into, product placement in TV shows and movies. And now we've got our influencers who are making a fortune with these brand deals where they're talking about, oh my goodness, look, I just got my Lululemon haul. Look at all these cute outfits, and they model them
Yeah.
for the viewer. And then sometimes when they're just making dinner, or they're putting on makeup, or you're watching a Get Ready with Me or a morning vlog, I'll go in and I'll look at the comments, and I see people going, where did you get those earrings?
Totally.
Where did you get those jeans? Where did you get those shoes? Where did you get this? Where did you get your couch? And then the influencer will say, oh, the link is in my bio.
Yeah.
And now it's found its way into everything.
Oh, the whole internet, right? Yeah. But you don't even know you're being sold something.
Right. Until you find yourself wanting it, right?
Also, it's super useful too, though. There's like the pragmatic part of me that's like, I love looking at the apartment therapy like stuff because I can see how people are designing their homes.
Oh, and it's in such a small space. No, it's wonderful. Like, I agree with you. They'll like take a tiny studio and turn it into like an oasis.
Yeah, but I guess they're not really selling anything
No,
besides.
they're
But
just
like,
showing their how they set things up.
yeah, but the people, right? The influencers. You're like, I admire you. You have good taste. If you like this, it's both. It's like it can inspire you because you're like that couch is awesome. I never would have thought of that. That whatever she's doing there with her living room design, and so you're inspired on one hand, but then on the other hand, I think you can be like goaded into, right? Like I need that perfume. I need that car because this will make me feel important and it'll earn me respect. It'll be mean I'm high status. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Ugh.
No, I learned how to gua sha from Lindsay Arnold Cusick.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't know you could gua sha your whole body. I was just doing my face.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I learned it from watching Lindsay Arnold Cusick. Yeah, so now we get to this amazing John Ronson book called So You've Been Publicly Shamed. What I really liked about this book, and he wrote it in 2015, and he goes through and he talks about different instances of people being canceled, very, very publicly shamed. And he sort of talks about his own kind of responsibility in just generally like watching someone's downfall and feeling that kind of like righteous indignation. Like I sent you that TikTok, as we've been researching for this episode, and it's this guy, and it's just funny because I'm reading this John Ronson book, and then I see this pop up on my For You page, and it's this guy, and he's like, okay, so I was out in the woods and I came across a whole bunch of trash bags full of garbage that belong to, and he names the people who live at, and he gives their address. He goes, and the trash is in the back of my truck now, and I was gonna drop it off on your lawn, but I see the cops are there talking to you, so something to the effect of like he'll be back later to drop it off. And so he doxed them effectively, right? Yeah. And at first listening to it, I'm like, oh, good on you, sir. Yeah. What assholes, what losers, fucking littering, dropping their fucking trash off in the woods. And then I go to the comment section, and a lot of people feel the same way. And now they've started looking these people up online. The fact that one of them, I guess, has a criminal history, who the people are, what their relationship is. And I was like, wait a minute. And I realized, this all happened so quickly too. There's that initial flare up of outrage, and the intoxicating feeling of being outraged. Right. And then the realization that I didn't need to know this about them.
Yeah.
It would have been enough for him to drop the trash off on their lawn and then call the fucking cops.
Yeah. He
didn't need to out them. I don't know these people. I don't know if they're mentally ill. I don't know if they even fucking did it, right? Yeah. Maybe they didn't do it. Maybe someone else did it. Like we don't know anything. But in that little fucking 20, 30-second clip, I created the narrative for them. That they're terrible people, that they're total litter bugs, they're disrespectful, and they're pieces of shit.
Litter bugs.
I know, I said litter bug.
No, there are so many litter bugs in Oakland.
Of course. There's litter bugs in every major city.
It's really awful. Like,
it's terrible.
Who the hell does that? You're breaking the social contract. It's enraging. But I hear you. Yeah, Tim and I were talking about this. Like, back in the day, people like killed you in real life. Like John Lennon was killed by a fan. Selena was killed by a fan.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Rebecca Schaefer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now they just kill you online by ruining your whole life. And you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, we become judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah.
With no information, man.
Yeah.
With zero information, we are hardwired to want to fucking take each other down.
Like someone could have stolen their garbage and
that's what I'm saying. We really have no idea. And in the case of poor fucking the Kaiser family, there are people who have decided that Emily Kaiser was too busy making content to keep an eye on her son. And then when it was revealed that I think they ascertained this through some previous post that she actually wasn't home. She was at a get together on Mother's Day. And that the husband was at home, then they decided he wasn't paying attention to the child. He was too busy watching sports. Oh, they've decided these things. They've constructed this narrative because they decided that they want the parents to be just absolutely like negligent.
Oh, totally.
Like they have no fucking idea. Exactly. They don't know. Maybe the dad was in the pool with the boy. Maybe the net was on the pool. Maybe we have no idea what happened.
And also maybe they just had a lapse in
It
their
happens all the
attention.
fucking time, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we're human, we make mistakes, we're forgivable. Like, yeah, it's that need to, I feel like it has to do with control. Like,
Yeah. If it can be someone's fault, then bad things don't just happen.
I mean, yeah, it's such a we do this to ourselves all the time. We
Yeah.
blame ourselves, we blame others because we'd rather live in a world where there's someone to blame than a world where bad shit can just happen. Yeah. And sometimes and as humans, we have lapses in our attention all the time. When we're driving, when we're,
Yeah.
working, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that. Like I mentioned this. I don't know if the what happened to Adam Walsh in Hollywood, Florida back in the day. John Walsh, America's Most Wanted, his son Adam, who
Yes.
was 5 or 6 years old and went to a Sears with his mother, Reve, and Adam wanted to just watch the video game display while she just went a couple aisles down to grab a lamp. When she came back, he was gone.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where it happens all the fucking time. It happens all the time. Kids go and they play in the front yard or the backyard, or things fucking happen. And I used to be a lifeguard, and it's real easy. You think you think you're paying attention. You think a lot of things, and it really is. Most of the time, it's just a terrible fucking accident, and of course it has to do with your attention being taken away just quickly. But it takes like 30 seconds. It takes 30 seconds to drown.
And I mean, you'd think that you'd even have more empathy for someone who maybe didn't have their attention fully on their kid, and the kid ran right out the door and drowned. Like, you'd think you'd have more because they have to live with themselves about that.
Like Reve Walsh, I can only
Oh,
imagine her replaying that event over and over in her mind and saying, no, no, Adam, you're coming with me.
oh God, I know, I
And and
know,
and and it's because most of the time nothing bad happens.
I know.
Most of the time it doesn't. And also just the lack of some, Emily and her husband they have a newborn and the 3-year-old, and it's
Yeah,
like even more easy for something to, for the attention to be taken away. For again, it doesn't take very long
I know.
for
People
these
are,
things to happen.
yeah.
Your attention absolutely can be taken away by a newborn who's crying.
I don't know if you have to change a diaper.
Change a diaper. Hey, wait here. I've got to go grab your little brother. The little brother needs a quick diaper change, whatever. You come back, the kid's outside, and 30 seconds plus passed. But again, 30 seconds goes fast. It goes
Absolutely.
really fucking fast.
Yeah.
But I know I don't want to spend too long just belaboring the point that if we spent more time kind of just looking at these situations and saying, like, there but for the grace of God go I, and extending more grace and more compassion, then we wouldn't have these poor people being eviscerated online
I
by
know.
strangers. So Shannon, how far have you gotten in the John Ronson book?
Not far at all. But it's so, so, so good.
Yeah, he talks a lot about, he gives these situations of people who have messed up, who have done things accidentally or done things on purpose, and how they've been publicly shamed, essentially canceled, right? That's
Yeah.
that's what we do now, is we cancel people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because public humiliation is something that ended up being discontinued because it was just too awful.
Like back in the day when they would take someone into the town square and humiliate them, like that.
Yes. Like
Mm-hmm.
there were instances of, okay, like in the 1800s, like your punishment is like, yeah, essentially in public, you're going to be whipped X amount of times. And I think there was one case where someone was like, can you just whip me in private? Like the public humiliation was just far too much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah,
I came across something today online where they were talking about like a social contagion back in the day. This is in the counterpoint to the public humiliation thing, where women were committing suicide and they were getting a lot of attention. And so other women started doing it. And in order to prevent it, they said the next suicide that happens, they're going to hang the person in the town square and take their skin off and let their body rot. And then it all stopped. Wild, right? I have to double check that that's actually
that
real.
is really crazy. Also, like, who's doing the flaying? Because,
I know.
ew,
I
that's
know.
just awful.
But that's how like how shame can both function. It's totally awful, but then it can also function to like extinguish a behavior.
Right. And now here we are, and people are losing their livelihoods, they're being degraded. It's like a pack mentality, like this mob, this mob mentality that happens. And because we're in the digital age, it happens very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And also some things that are, kind of seemingly, I don't know, these people that are kind of like nobodies, even with very few followers. They make one misstep and it becomes like viral. It's funny, speaking of John Ronson, because he did this documentary podcast on the late porn star August Ames, who killed herself in 2017 after an online mob attack. And she had tweeted out the fact that she had canceled a scene that was coming up that she'd been booked for because she didn't want to work with a male performer who had, they're called, it's called crossover, crossover performing, when you work in the gay porn world and also in the straight porn world. And because it was 2017, it was a period of time when you didn't, if anyone held views of being uncomfortable working with a crossover performer, it's not something that you generally shared publicly because it was seen as homophobic. And August was just, she mentioned it, probably, sent the tweet out saying, if there's a female performer that is booked to do this scene, I'm just letting you know that the guy you'd be working with does crossover performing. And I think she said something to the effect of like, I do the research so that I know. I think what she was implying is that it seemed a little suspect that she wasn't like plainly told that it
Mm-hmm.
was a performer who did crossover work.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how anybody feels about that was her opinion. That was her feeling
And her
that she shared.
choice
That was her
about like
choice.
whether she wants, yeah. Uh-huh.
Whether she wants to or not, regardless, she didn't use any homophobic slurs. She just kind of stated it plainly. And then that is when the attacks started. And just one after the other,
Wow.
just really eviscerating her on Twitter. And she tried to defend herself a little bit. She's like, hey, I'm not homophobic. It didn't work. And then a few days after that, she took her life. Now, I'm not saying that she was struggling already. She had been vocal about her mental health and steps she was trying to take to help. And she struggled because there weren't a lot of mental health care practitioners that would be respectful about the fact that she was a sex worker.
I am
And she had talked.
so sad to hear.
I know it was in for anyone. I think I want to say that episode, the interview with her, is on Holly Randall's podcast, dated back like around 2016, 2017. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to suggest that this happened, everything was going great in her life, and then because of this, she took her life, but it definitely pushed her.
Well, I mean, I think this is the exact kind of thing that makes people kill themselves. Like,
Yeah.
we are such social people, beings, and you see kids who are bullied and ostracized do it all the time. And
Oh, yes. Yes.
so, I mean, I would feel desperate and
Yeah.
if I didn't have a strong support system and I didn't have, years and years and years of therapy under my belt, that would break me. It's horrible to be and to see that ugly side of humanity and to be so misunderstood. Yeah,
And
awful.
what the implications are too for somebody who's a public figure like she was, it's
Career.
yeah, it's her Twitter, Instagram, all of that was it's important to a model's career, to to anybody, a performer's career.
Ugh.
And the fear, probably, again, I don't want to put words or thoughts in, on her, but for I would think that it feels like your world is crashing down around you. Am I going to lose jobs now? People aren't going to want to work with me. People hate me.
Oh,
All of this kind of stuff. And
yeah.
that's the thing I think about sometimes when I look at some of these influencers, again, whether you agree with them or not, whether you think that they're sellouts because they've taking on all these brand deals, even though the fucking temptation would be too much for me. I know that, you know.
Well, you got to take care of yourself financially. It's like,
Exactly. It's and again, it's like your priorities are not their priorities. Your values aren't necessarily their values. The way they dress, the things they do to themselves, for themselves. But I see the pile on, and I think about like August Ames, and I'm like, I don't know what would happen if one of these influencers like took their life because the vitriol was just so much.
mm-hmm.
Then what? Then these fucking commenters and snarkers, like what? Then they suddenly you know
Mm-hmm.
become advocates for mental health. you know they
Yeah.
they change their tune, or they double down even more. I don't know. Like, some of these people are terrible, but yes, the public shaming, and that's essentially, it's important because I say all this, and I'm guilty of being. I would never go into somebody's comments and post anything mean. Number one, I don't know them. Number two, I've been on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
But I've certainly seen some stuff where I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I leave it at that. But I like how in the book John Ronson kind of, he points out his own, like, feeling, that smug kind of self-righteousness at seeing someone get dragged that did something that he didn't like.
Yeah. 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 We all have that. That's the thing is like, we all have these feelings.
Sure.
I feel like the how to live a good life. It's like you don't have to act on every single feeling, and you don't have to make every single tension go away by discharging on someone when you don't like something. It's like it is this really strange invitation to like be just go with your most base instincts. Because, I mean, we all love a good, like, oh, I'm going to crush that fucker. Like, that I told you about the trash boat, like,
Yeah.
I drive down the street and it's like literally people dump like a boat full of trash on the street along with like burned out cars. And I'm just thinking, who are these? Like, I want to form a vigilante team of neighbors to like go hide out there and like ambush them, or get like a spike strip and throw it out onto the road so they pop all their tires when they're driving away. Like, it's totally human to feel
Right.
those feelings, but it's like try to grow that line from the detonator to the bomb. And just like try to make that a little longer. But online, it's just like you can just
It's
do it.
instantaneous
Yeah.
before you even think about it. That's the problem, right? And
Yeah.
and again, I always say, like, oh man, I am so glad social media didn't exist when I was fucking 17 years old.
Oh God.
That's the thing. But it's I think about, like, remember when we didn't have to broadcast every fucking thought?
Oh God. I miss
That's
those
the
days.
narcissism piece,
Yeah.
It's and I see that, and I'm like, it reminds me of, like, do you guys feel like if you don't share everything, then it didn't happen? Because I feel like that's where we are, where if people aren't recording every moment, every seemingly, like the pregnancy thing, where apparently us and the thing where what was weird is that this creator, I don't even know that she was aware, the irony, I don't think that she caught on.
Yeah.
of when only you and your baby know. And it's like, and all of us, but it's like, do you not know? Was it also just an instantaneous, in the same way that people will just impulsively, very quickly, without thinking, comment something, are also people creating
Yeah.
this content. And so it's an interesting time because it is this impulsivity. I don't know. I guess the thing is, like, in the same way that we feel like these influencers don't have to share everything that they do, we also don't have to comment on everything that they do,
Oh, man.
right?
Yes. Oh, I if I could just eradicate review culture, that would it's horrible.
Do
And like,
people get way too into it, like that dude you told me about with
oh my God.
Tim's bookstore?
We need to read his we need to do a theatrical reading of all of his Yelp reviews.
We could do that as a trapdoor episode.
Let's totally do it.
That because that's fucking funny.
It's horrible. And you hold the key. I mean, you could really harm a person's livelihood
Well,
by
let's talk. I mean, that like Alan Kasanoff in our Kasanoff episode,
yeah.
everything. Like it's a miracle that he was able to claw his way back and be in like a really great position now, because what happened could have just it again. Yeah, people take their lives over shit like that.
Oh, I know. But then you had some examples of people doing this right, I guess. Like,
There, yeah, because I don't, I'm hesitant. I feel bad harping so much. I mean, again, there's wonderful aspects to social media. I mean, it connected a lot of people during COVID.
yeah.
It has saved people's lives. It has. There's two accounts that I really like, because these are people being like genuinely vulnerable and very, very earnest. And one of them is this account that belongs to this creator named Brooke Eby. Her last name is Eby. And I started following her a long time ago, a couple years ago, I should say. She found out that she was diagnosed with ALS, and she decided to document her journey with
Mm.
ALS. And so we've all watched her go from being very mobile to now can she can't move.
Mm.
And her perseverance, her desire to educate people on the disease, I mean, it's a documentary. Like
Right. I
what
was
we're
just
watching,
thinking that. I was
it's
like, we
it's a
love
real
documentaries.
exactly. This is her documentary. And it's absolutely, it's soul crushing in one way to watch her, but also she's so strong. And this is ALS Awareness Month, and so each day she answers a question, and she's so frank.
Mm.
And I don't know, I just was like tearing up, like listening to her talk. Someone is asking her, are you scared? And she's
Mm.
answering these questions, and she knows that this is a terminal disease, and it's probably one of the worst things that you could ever endure, and
Yeah.
she's just fucking she's doing it. It's incredible. I hope that they make a documentary using her TikToks, because she's really an amazing person. Like, I know, again, I don't know her, but watching her do this and be so strong is incredible. You should check it out, Shannon. I don't know where she gets her strength and fortitude. I mean, she's got a really solid family. Like, you can tell just over the course of the years I've watched her content. The other account is her content came up because of what happened to Emily Kaiser's son. So a lot of content about drowning and drowning prevention and stuff came up. But her account is thriving underscore bereaved underscore mama.
Mm.
And she talks about her experience with losing her son. And it really sheds a light on, I mean, this is a woman who was a lifeguard, worked with the Red Cross, like was incredibly passionate about pool safety. and she lost her 3-year-old to a drowning. So she really makes the point that, like, no, it's not because a parent is a, piece of shit or whatever that this happens. Like, it happened to her. And she's sharing her story, but also just talks a lot about pool safety and stuff. And she's another one who's just incredibly earnest and passionate about child safety. So, those kinds of accounts exist. And I think these are real, this is social media at its best, along with, I mean, there's just so much fitness, nutrition, teaching you how to do shit. It's not always weird content that's disturbing, or content that is, people attacking, I guess is what I'm saying, attacking others. But yeah. So anyway, I hope that this episode made sense to you guys. Let us know some of your favorite accounts, or if you've had any weird experiences on social media.
Yeah, or any like canceling. Have you been canceled? Have you
Or
been,
publicly shamed.
yeah, has somebody given you a bad review and how you kind of dealt with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an ongoing conversation for us. It's so fraught, this world we live in, with technology and relationships and
It's so complicated. And
yeah.
like you said, are we built for this? I mean, I think that each generation is. I see even with my own kids how kind of like deft they are with the way they maneuver and do things. And we are that, Gen X is such a weird generation because we've existed on both sides. We've had like very little technology to like watching technology just grow by leaps and bounds each year. And so this the way that it's evolved is extra fascinating, and sometimes like troubling, Black Mirror style.
Yeah, because we have a reference point to when
Yeah.
it didn't. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yoy. Well, that was fun. So we're
Yes.
going to be off for a while and we will return with
We'll
video,
return in June, probably mid-June, right?
maybe mid to late.
Yes. So about a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way we'll do video. We'll be doing video podcasting then.
Yes.
And
And our Patreon will still be up.
we'll add more content. And I'm going to add some free content. And, we'll have time to do more content for that too. Yay.
Amazing. So yeah, follow us, please, on Instagram. It's at Secret Passage Podcast. On X, it's at Secret Pass Pod, right?
Yep.
And follow our Patreon. Support us there if you'd like to. That'd be great. Leave us a 5-star review, please. And we will see you again shortly.